Hello everyone and welcome to Azure Back to School session. My name is Elhan, also known as Cloud Marathoner. Welcome to Azure Getting Started with Azure Fundamentals session. In this session, before jumping into that, I want to make sure that you are aware that there are many other great sessions for this event that are recorded by great presenters. So please check the website as well. And I want to say big thank you for the organizers who worked relentlessly on organizing this event back to back for a couple of years now. I'm I was honored to present on this event, and I'm happy to be on this year as well. So what we are going to cover today, briefly speaking, if you were planning to get yourself ready for Cloud Fundamentals and learn about Microsoft Azure, this course is going to be a refresher and good starter for that. I'm going to cover the key learning objectives. I'm not going to dive too much into that because it's a one-day course that I can't physically cover within the next 30 to 45 minutes, but you will learn very good key things that you need to learn and give attention before heading for your exam. And plus, we'll cover the introduction to cloud concepts. We'll look into Azure architecture and services. You will look into Azure management and governance services. So it's not just going to be the slides. I'm also going to navigate to Azure portal between my slides. And I'm also going to give you hint of and give you the reference materials of the slide within the GitHub repo. So stay tuned. Let's jump to our session. As I already mentioned, my name is Elhan. This is a little bit information about what I'm doing within the community. I'm also Microsoft MVP and Microsoft Certified Trainer Community Lead. So if you have any questions regarding those programs, or you are trying to break into public speaking or sharing the information that you find very attractive, please feel free to reach me. I'll be happy to guide you in that efforts. But in addition to that, as a cloud marathoner community leader, if you are into the cloud, into AI, and you are trying to learn and make the breakthrough, it's very frustrating in the beginning, but believe me, you can do it. It's just a matter of starting and following the community and learning from each other. So without any further ado, let's start the session. So first, we are going to look into how you can start your cloud journey, what it takes, and how this session Hit Cloud Refresh will help you in this. Next, we will look into what is the AZ-900 and what to expect from that exam. After that, I will provide you some key objectives of that exam, and we'll look into learning resources of the exam. And finally, we'll wrap it up with some Q&A and with some reference information that can guide you to learn and go forward. Before going to the next slide, I want to show you a GitHub repo where you can find it, where all the references of this session slides, the links and references can be easily accessible. So I'm going to navigate to my GitHub repo. So if you never, watched my session, this is my GitHub repo. So you can easily navigate that by typing my GitHub username here. So once you're on that GitHub page, just scroll down and you should be able to see presentation sections here. Just click on that, please. And the next you'll be in a page where I have mostly put slides for the presentation that I demonstrated, and you can click on this Azure Back to School 2025, and there will be a couple sessions there, so choose the one that you are interested in and check the material there. But be aware that it's going to be available by the time when the session is made available, so hopefully you can get useful stuff from here. Okay, let me switch back here to the slides to start your cloud journey. And the main focus here that you need to ace your fundamentals in Microsoft Azure or any other objective that you are trying to become professional on. And as you see here on the right side, I have the certification path, so to speak, for becoming the Microsoft Azure Expert Architect or Expert Azure DevOps Engineer. In any case, whenever you are trying to study it, important part is that you want to start with the fundamentals. This is very important to make sure you cover your baseline knowledge. Next, you want to focus on a role that you find very close to you, to your day-to-day job, or to the role that you would like to grow into. And finally, you want to focus on environment where you are going to perform on that role and pick the right, you know, pick the right certification and learning path to succeed in that role. So in addition, this is not the all. In addition to that, there are other learning passes as well, and I want to share that pass with you. So here, if you go back to the screen, there is this certification, and you can find this certification poster on the links that I'm going to share. This is the all about different certification passes that you can get. So you have infrastructure, you have data and AI, you have a digital app and innovation, there's a security, business application. So you can go through this, and I'm not going to, dive deep into this as it is not our focus, but I'll put the link so you can look into that and get familiar in your journey. All right. So let's switch back to the place where we are. So next, what to expect on this Microsoft introduction to Microsoft Azure, right? On this course, previously it was named as Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. It is still name of the course, but the exam name is in. But there is a change that if you go to the site, you would see that the learning path is actually called Introduction to the Microsoft Azure, and I will show that to you. So what to expect in this learning course is that first you will learn about cloud concepts, and it's going to cover approximately 1/3 of the material of this course. Then you would have this Azure Architecture and Services section, which is covering close to 40%. And this is very important place where you get this feeling about what are the services in cloud in Microsoft Azure, what is their primary focus area, what you can do with those solutions and services. And finally, you learn about management and governance of the cloud, which is covering another 1/3 of the course, which is really important piece when you're trying to manage your cloud environment. Again, the focus of this session is going to be solely on Microsoft fundamentals. I'm not going to cover core service of Microsoft Azure or M365, which also stands for Microsoft 365. And you will get, with this session, you will get more of a first look into Microsoft Azure services and solutions. Again, for each section, I will make a demo, so it's not going to be just dry demonstration of the slides, but you would see hands-on how you can go to Microsoft Entra Center, how you can go to Azure Portal and check some services. All right, I hope that excites you. Let's jump to our next slide of the first describing how we can describe the cloud concepts. So under this section, describing cloud concepts, first, of course, we are talking about cloud computing. What is cloud computing? Well, basically, it has its own definition where, as an end user, you should be able to purchase services and provision your services on demand. So if that's the case, it's a part of the cloud computing where services are provided with redundancy, but you have to, of course, configure some of those redundancies. But it is readily available. It has different pay models like pay as you go, and anyone can, with public cloud, anyone can go and just buy those services as far as if your credit card allows. Next, we have these cloud models, which are public, private, and hybrid. And those models are depends on what type of cloud your organization is running. So with hybrid cloud, usually it refers to combination of some on-prem infrastructure, like it could be networking, some storage devices, and connection to some um, cloud service provider, CSP. Um, and then, of course, private one means that organization can manage their own uh, data centers that they can call a private cloud, which is only accessible to that organization, and there is no other organization who is using that. And in terms of there's a consumption-based model that I just told you. So with public cloud and with cloud computing, you only pay for what you use, especially with CSPs like in Microsoft Azure or any other cloud service provider. This is very widely used consumption model. Next, there are benefits of using cloud services, and there's many of them. Some of them refer to the high availability and scalability of services whenever there is a high demand, or you want to make sure that your customers are always able to access your services, no matter if there was some failures behind the scene. Cloud comes with its own reliability and predictability, meaning that you can build those components into your service where you can get reliable service and you can get some predictability in terms of what to expect as a cost within a month or within 6 months if you run same set of components as part of your solution. Then you have security and governance piece of cloud services, which is very important. And some of them came by default. However, you need to have cloud security uh, engineers in your team who understand how to use those services and how to configure them properly. Otherwise, even though service may come with that capability to provide high-end security and governance, but if those features are not configured properly, if you are not managing them based on the industry best practices, then of course you are not going to benefit from those services. Then we have manageability in the cloud, which is part of the cloud services, which basically dictates the situation where all the services that you get from public cloud, you can manage them. There is some type of scripting, some type of portal, depending on the service type, that you can access those services and manage them. And when we speak about cloud concepts, it's very important to also mention CapEx and OpEx, where CapEx stands for capital expenditure and OpEx stands for the operational expenditure. So these traditional data center approach where organizations have to pay in advance in order to buy the storage, buy the compute, buy the servers, the racks, networking equipment. So that all went under the CapEx. But with OpEx, which is operational expenditure, it's more of a you are just paying for what you want to use. You have much shorter time to provision your services. Basically, you just pay for operational expenses of your services, not for the infrastructure where it is running. So that's very important to concepts, CapEx versus EPEX. And finally, cloud service types. So we'll dive a bit more into that in the next demo and slide, but basically we are talking about IaaS, which is infrastructure as service. We're talking about PaaS, which is platform as service, and SaaS. So let's look at that, in a way that it's much more understandable, and it's also going to be part of the demo that's coming next. So with infrastructure service, those boxes that you see as in blue are the ones where you are managing those responsibilities. The rest, which are in green, are managed by your cloud solution provider. Same applies to the platform as services where you have less components to manage, but you can still put your application code and logic, and you still manage your data. And finally, there's some SaaS solutions, software as a service, where you just pay for subscription and the rest is managed by the solution provider. But when you are dealing with on-prem or you are, let's say, running some private cloud where every component is managed by you, and at that point, you have to manage all of it, which means that you need to have enough professionals within your organization to do all those operations. All right, that said, let's look at the demo before us. Demo number one, where we are going to look at Azure portal. We'll look into different types of services that's provided so that you can get some good understanding. So now we are switched back to Azure. Now we are back to Azure portal, and once you access Azure portal, if you never use that, this is the basically URL on top, that portal.azure.com, that you would have to type. And if you already have subscription with the credentials that you enter, then you should be able to see subscriptions. In my case, I'm going to go and click on resource groups. This is the way how you manage and structure your service in Microsoft Azure. You may have many resource groups, you may have multiple subscriptions. In my case, I'm just going to go to, I will pick one of the subscriptions here, and let's say we want to look into one of these. Let's say I have this bicep test resource group, which has some components there. And what we are going to do, let's say we want to provision new service, right? This is the portal, we want to add new service and want to add a new storage account to our existing solution on bicep. To do that, you have a couple ways. There's a create button from here, which will add a new resource. You can also just go to the list of the resources and do the same. So I'm going to use this. Excuse me. Okay, we are in marketplace from where you can provision the resources. Here, if you type storage account, you would be able to select one. And then there's a variety of storage account services. So you would, based on your solution, for example, there's S3 API for Azure Blobs. You have different third-party companies who have their own solutions. Some of them come free, and some of them are actually require some pricing depending on what type of services they are offering. So you just need to choose the appropriate one. And let's say here we have storage account that we're looking. So I'm going to click on the storage account, and it will jump right directly to the, it will bring me a wizard where I need to fill in all required information. I need to define which type of storage account I'm looking for. Is the standard or premium? Am I looking at some redundancy? Do I want geo redundancy for higher availability, and for the cases if one region goes down, then I can use the other region, which is the geo-redundant storage here. And then you have zone redundancy as well, which comes with different benefits, but each of these services, of course, have different costs. So you need to balance the cost and benefit that you are getting. And that's defined basically with requirements of your services or the customers that you are serving. So once you finish this wizard, you should be able to create and add new storage account. So, and this is the example of IaaS, because this is the storage account. Then you may have a virtual machine, for example, where you want to go and provision a virtual machine. Then you just need to type that name, like virtual machine. And then once you click on that, you would again get many different options here. You'll get this solution from Microsoft as Azure Services, but you can also get different virtual machines from different organizations who are offering services, and some of them come as add value. So you just need to find the one that you are looking for. For example, if you want to provision virtual machine that runs the SQL, Microsoft SQL Server on it, then you can type virtual machine SQL, and then if you search for it, it will give you a variety of virtual machines that have Microsoft SQL version, for example, this one that's already pre-installed and running on it. But again, all those services, they can come with a certain fee or they can come as a free. All right, that's it. This was first demo. Now let's look at the second important learning point on our introduction to Microsoft Azure, which is the describing and understanding Azure architecture and services. So here, first we start with core architectural components of Azure. And when we talk about architectural components. It's all about regions and availability zones, where regions are basically a location where uh, your services are going to run. If you, for example, deploy them to East US region, it's certain area within the East US across the Virginia state where those data centers are. And the region doesn't mean that it's a one data center. It's going to be a couple of data centers depending on which type of region you choose. Then we have availability zones. So each region may or may not have availability zone. You need to look into that. And the benefit of having a availability zones in your region, it means that if there are some issues in one data center, uh, and you want to make sure that you are not affected with that, it could be power outage, it could be network issue, then you want to make sure you choose region that has availability zone and you enable availability zone for your services so that there's a failover and you have higher availability because you are using availability zones. Um, in case availability zone is not there, you can also look into there's automatic there's a you can also look into paired regions concept. That's also very valuable in the case that you have to use the region which doesn't come with availability zones. Next, we have subscriptions and resource groups, which I slightly touched on my first demo. So subscriptions are more of a billing boundary, or it's a more of a also boundary where you have a certain number of resources that are given for this subscription. So it's has some limits on how much service you can provision. You can learn more about that by looking into that. However, in most cases, if you are not running the entire enterprise under one subscription, you would have enough services to provision. And the source groups are logical containers where you can keep same lifecycle services together so that you can provision them together and you can deprovision them whenever their lifespan is ended. Next, we have Azure Compute and Networking Services. There are different compute types. You have virtual machines, you have, for example, Azure Functions, you have logic apps. So there are PaaS and IaaS type of compute types that you can use. You can host your applications there, and you can run virtual networks, which we call VNets, that come with all modern software-defined networking features. Of course, under the virtual network, you also have security controls that will control your network. You have network security groups, you have application security groups. There are different components of virtual network that you want to be, once if you are a networking professional, you want to dive into them and get familiar. Next, we have Azure Storage Services. It also comes with a variety of choices. You have blob storage, you have containers that you can store there. You can have tables. You have also data lake type of storages. So you want to get very familiar with that. There are different redundancy options depending on which type of storage account you are choosing. And you can also have file management and migration of existing data to cloud services in order to get higher availability and better redundancy. Uh, that's it. We have Azure Identity and Access and Security. That's the last for the architecture and services, where we are talking about how you can secure the access, right? How you can authenticate, how you can use the secure authentication method. You can also use the concept of directories like active. You know that there's an active Windows Active Directory, but you don't have that in Microsoft Azure. What you have there is you have this Microsoft Entra ID, which was previously known as Azure Active Directory, so you can get familiar with that. And there are different security models that you can bring with these services. Okay, let's look next at the demo, where I'm going to navigate to the Microsoft Entra portal, which is called under the entra.microsoft.com. We'll look into users, groups, and what to have it there. So on this graph here, what you see is that we have a Microsoft Entra ID. That's a tenant that manages the users, groups, authentication, and security layer, where it's connecting your on-prem managed, which is connecting your on-premises Active Directory and probably networking Active Directory identity related services to the cloud one, which is the place where you, for example, you want to extend your virtual network and run services there, then you want to look into this. So let's look at this demo. I'm going to switch to Microsoft Entra. Okay, we are in Microsoft Entra portal, and to know that you navigate there correctly, if you have access, this is basically this is the URL that you want to navigate to. All right, entra.microsoft.com, and once you navigated, there are some list of the services that you can check on the left side here. So if you look here, we'll jump directly to the you can look at overview, will give you some general idea. You can look into users, which will give you idea about the users. There are groups, devices, enterprise app registrations. There are many different services, and how to reset the password, how to look at authentication score. There are like identity and security related score, but I'm not going to dive into them because it's going to be another very big topic that you want to consider separately. But now here you see some of the users, right, that I have. So if I go to, for example, first user here, we have different ways to enable or disable this account. You can monitor this account, you can look into properties, and then of course you can get different metadata about this user. In addition to that, you can look into sign-in logs. If there are any roles assigned to this user, you would be able to see that. And this Microsoft Entra ID will give all this holistic information back to you. So in this case, no roles are assigned. So if there are any licenses, any devices associated with those users, you would be able to see them and troubleshoot any authentication or authorization related issues that you encounter for your users. In addition to that, as it's an architectural component, you also have Microsoft Azure Architecture Center. You have, I'll type it, Azure Architecture Center. I'm going to navigate there now. So this is also very valuable resource if you want to know about components of Microsoft Azure architecture. There are some reference architectures here. There's a number of them that you can look into. For example, if you are interested to learn about high availability and how that could be built into the system, get some reference architectures. Let me make sure I don't make a typo. So you can just pick, for example, one of the architectures. Here's high availability enterprise deployment that uses the app service environment. You can go read it through, look at the reference architecture, see what are the considerations, what are the pros and cons using this architecture. You can also get, in some cases, Visio file that you can take the original and then customize that architecture based on your custom requirements and project that you are working on. This is very valuable, resource. In addition to that, you can also look at other, suggestions under this. There's standard deployments, for example, for app service environment. If you are more interested to learn about that specific service, you can dive in and learn more about that. All right, that's it. I'm going to switch back to our session where we were. So here we'll look at the last learning module, which is talking about Azure Management and Governance Services. And Azure offers a wide array of configurable features and tools that you can use. First of all, cost management in Azure is all about having these tools to check the cost, and there's a price calculator that can give you an idea how much it would cost to run the services, which is very important from FinOps perspective. Then you also have different tools and services to manage it. in a way that you can have budgets, you can have management and tags that will help you to track your costs across different projects or even components of that project. Next, we have tools for governance and compliance, which basically entails uh, resources like resource logs. We have policies, we have service trust portal. All this can help you with those components. And as part of this demo of this section, I'm going to show you the policies, where they are, what type of value they bring, and how you can build your own policies. Next, we have tools for managing and deploying resources. And when we talk about that, there are different ways how you can manage and deploy your resources. There's a simple one or more visual one that we call Azure Portal. You also have, if you have scripting skills like PowerShell or Azure CLI, you can use them as well to manage those resources. In addition to that, you also have Azure Arc, which can manage the virtual machines, SQL servers, AKS, or Kubernetes services for you, including the cluster, uh, remotely on any location where they are. So it doesn't need to be, when you are using the Azure Arc, Azure Arc doesn't just operate within the Microsoft portal or Microsoft Azure environment. It can also operate on different clouds where you deployed those Microsoft SQL Server, or you deployed the Kubernetes services or virtual machines that you want them to be managed through centrally from your Azure Arc control panel. So have a look into that service. And you also have Azure Resource Manager, which is the important part of managing and deploying the resources. And finally, we have monitoring tools in Azure, where we talk about there's Azure Advisor that can give you AI-driven recommendations to optimize the efficiency, cost, and different like security and different components of your solution. You have Azure Services, which can give you different alerts depending on health of the services, and as well as give you some insights into what's going on Azure uh, region where you might experience some issues and you want to check. And then you also have Azure Monitoring, which is basically a monitoring solution within Microsoft Azure that comes with many benefits, where you can collect the metrics, logs, and analyze them, and as well as report them back by refresh. You can report them by visualizing the insights from your logs and get good understanding how system is operating or if there are any issues in your system. Now let's jump into our final demo of this session, which is going to talk about Azure policies. So here so now we are back to Azure Portal. Here we are in Azure Portal where we have policy. You navigate to the policy, and I have already selected a subscription, which I want to look. If you want to select a different subscription, you can do that as you wish. And here I get some type of percentage. What's my coverage overall compliance score here, which is it's upper 70s here. That would be see. And I have some policies here. So if you want to see what are the assigned policies, or you want to dive more into compliance, you can click on compliance, and you'll get more understanding about what are the policy names that are assigned for this given subscription and what you are tracking. You can have these individual policies, or you can have policy initiatives. So in this case, I have two policy initiatives. One of them is more of a covering Azure security benchmark, which comes with a number of different requirements, like there should be additional redundancy, there are additional controls, which of course you may go and implement. But keep in mind that it's a balance between how much redundancy and additional compliance elements are going to cost to your solution. In my case, I didn't enable them because I don't see a need for it for this demo environment. But if you are in a production environment where those concerns are very important and legitimate, then you can go and look into those recommendations. And finally, if you want to, for example, add new policy based on your application and customer requirements, you can always look at some of these great number of policies that are provided by Microsoft Azure. It could be great, uh, great starter to find policy. Let's say if you have a specific tagging policy that you want to implement, you can always come and type tag in the search. It will give you a number of services here that you can look and see if those services are meeting the need. And if you find one that's very close to the solution that you want to implement, you can pick it up, you can edit, customize that, and deploy your customized, um, you know, policy. In my case, under assignments, I have deployed some of these policies, and I deployed also policy initiative that has a number of policy assignments included into that one policy initiative object. Okay, that's it. Let's look to the next. So next is if you wanna within the Microsoft Learn modules, you would have a small sections where you can, go and provision certain resources, practice your skills. In addition to that, I want to mention that there's also a separate site called Applied Skills, which is the place where you can freely go and practice certain things. So previously there was just 27 of them, but now if you go and check the applied skills, let me bring that. So here we have applied skills. You just type applied skills, it will come up. But if you are not sure where it is, here's the URL that I'm going to highlight for you. So it's basically under the credentials, and you need to type applied skills in the search. So once you type applied skills, currently we see 43 of them. Let's say you are trying to learn more about monitoring, applying the best practice of monitoring, and you want to practice here to implement some baseline configuration. You can type here monitor. And then you have two applied skills basically that you can dive in and get better understanding how you can deploy and configure your Azure Monitor, and as well as how you can get started with security and monitoring tasks within the Azure Monitoring Service. This is very great resource that I highly recommend, so that highly recommend to my students whenever they want to get these applied skills, hands-on skills, which are not directly tied to your learning, to your certification learning path, but they are very important if you are doing that job as a professional, or you are planning to do that job as a professional. Next, I want to go through some useful reference resources. First of them is Microsoft Learn modules themselves. I covered them, exam objectives and key concepts that you need to be aware. There's an exam simulator where you can go and get some understanding what to expect, what type of UI and navigation to expect during the exam, including some question types, how they will appear. Then you have practice exam with simulation. And let me show that to you. So if you are never passed in last few years, if you didn't have a chance to do any Microsoft training and examination, let me show you how it will look like. So here, if I go back to Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, this is the basically page where all the materials are listed for this course. You would see that under Prepare for Exam, you have this course Introduction to Microsoft Azure with 3 important learning passes that we covered today in our training with high-level key objectives for each of them. Of course, I highly recommend to go and dive into each of them and make your due diligence by learning the materials, because this short session is not going to cover all of it. Next, there are practices for the exam. This is the practice assessment, which you can take after you finish the learning path, so you can get some feel of the type of questions to expect during the exam. and get yourself ready by studying the any portions of the material that you may not learn well. But if you have any questions on that, you can also ping me on LinkedIn, and on a timely fashion I will respond and try to help you there. Next, you have experience demo. This is the sandbox about the exam simulator that I just talked about, that you can launch and see that. So you will get, if you are planning to take the exam, you will have 45 minutes to go and complete that. And you can schedule your exam using one of these two exam providers that are listed on the website. And for certification poster that I showed you earlier, you can also click on this to get the latest if there are any updates. All right, that's it. Let's switch back. So there's also a good service, which I will put that link in my description below of this video. Check the always free services that are available through Azure. They are always provided. You can use them for 30 days and will come with some credits. And after it expires, there are always free services that you can use, which will basically extend the life of the services that you want to use in your first Azure portal. So now we are in a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. You can also use the comments. You can also reach me directly on social media, on LinkedIn, by just typing my name and that I provided, but in the beginning of this session. Okay, so what we covered, briefly going through that, we had our first Heat Cloud refresh to get ready for introduction to Microsoft Azure, or AZ-900 exam. We started with walkthrough toward what does it take to start your cloud journey, what it is, what are the options, and how you can define your specific learning journey. And if you can tie it up to some type of exams or credentials that you want to get, then you can get some concrete step, what exams, what certifications you need to acquire. Next, we looked into what to expect in AZ-900, what are the exam objectives, what are the key concepts, what are the references, and where you need to look. Then I showed some learning resources and references that would be key for your preparation. And we had a very small Q&A session where, again, if you missed that, you can go and type your questions in the comments below of this video, and I'll be happy to address them for you. Finally, before the end of this, if you are watching this session on your mobile device, you can scan these QR codes for detailed which is basically detailed way. You can, again, if you're on your mobile app, just you can scan these QR codes and get into the resource that I just shared. I also want to share that we have Cloud Marathoner YouTube channel where you can find different infrastructure as a code related sessions, and as well as some security and Azure Bicep related topics that you may want to dive. If you are interested in FinOps, I also have some good set of presentations that you can check it out. And finally, I want to say big thank you for everyone who stayed on this session with me till the end and they watched it. And I want to wish you good luck in your examination if you are preparing to take one. And keep in mind, it's always first step that's harder to take, but once you ace your first step, the rest will come much, much easier. So thank you again for watching this, and thank you for Azure Back to School for organizing this event. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great rest of your day as well. Bye for now. Thank you.